Terra plana contra cientistas.
Hey guys, welcome back to Middle Ground.
Before we jump in, we've got a huge
Stop.
Nobody wants to be a flat earther.
One giant leap for mankind.
Você acha que a forma da Terra é...
I know for a fact it's a globe.
The Earth is flat.
It's like we have this picture of reality that's a big puzzle piece, and then one of those pieces just wasn't fitting.
I'm always open to having a discussion with someone who is holding a wrong belief like this.
Você quer mudar sua margem?
Holding a wrong belief like this.
Você quer mudar a sua mente sobre isso? Sua opinião sobre isso?
I'm not.
Ah, é um cientista esse cara.
So much.
Eu pensei
Nobody
que...
wants to be a flat earther, but if you showed me incontrovertible evidence, I would definitely go back. Who wants the ridicule?
I'd like the TERRA.
Olha aqui. O que você está esperando... O que você está esperando da conversa com as outras pessoas? Da discussão com as outras
I'd
pessoas?
like to tear them to pieces.
Pera aí, o quê? Eu gostaria de rasgá-lo em pedaços. O cara da Terra plana.
I'd like to tear them
Ok.
to pieces.
Ai, meu Deus do céu. Isso vai ser interessante, né? Cientistas e terraplanistas.
I'm Jim Underdown, Executive Director of the Center for Inquiry West in Los Angeles and the chair of the CFI Investigations Group.
I'm Spencer Marks, one of the senior members of the CFI Investigations Group, Science Advocate.
I am Malina Yeri. I'm a theoretical physicist, and I'm with the University of Irvine.
I am Wendell Walton. I am a Chief Learning Officer for a young startup.
I'm Shelley Lewis. I'm a graduate of West Point, critical thinker.
Pensadora crítica. What?
I'm the waterman in the drinking water filtration industry and a truth seeker.
Tá, esses três são cientistas e esses três são terraplanistas, mano. É o terraplanista na esquerda e os globistas na direita. É globista, né, que fala? Dê um passo à frente se é verdade pra você. Eu acredito que a Terra foi criada por um poder maior.
Well, I've been a Christian for 30 years, so the Bible is a flat earth book. You have to take it literally. Like, for example, in Isaiah, when it talks about how the earth is like a clay wax seal that's stamped with upturned edges.
Os caras vão puxar da Bíblia a brisa da Terra plana. Eu pensei que era alguns bagulhos científicos, umas teses. Os caras vão puxar da Bíblia. Yo!
Not some fancy story. That's a simile. It is like.
Right, absolutely. And in Isaiah talks about...
E ela também manja. Ah, não, velho.
Sits upon the circle of the earth. There's a difference between a circle and a ball.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
If you look at the original Hebrew, it means disc. There's over 200 scriptures in the Bible that point to a flat earth.
Ok.
So this notion that you need God or some higher power to create the earth or the universe is very old and was initially posited by people of a pre-scientific age. Since
Deus fez a Terra plana.
quite a
Acabou
bit
pra nós.
about the universe coming into existence, when that
Não, tá
happened.
virando uma
Modern
disputa
humans
de
don't get their
religião contra a
cosmology,
ciência agora.
They don't get their physics, they don't get their knowledge of the universe.
Porque se os caras acreditam
from
que a
the
Terra é
Bible.
plana por causa da Bíblia, aí fudeu, tá ligado? Aí vai ser difícil mudar, mano. Porque contra a fé, tá ligado? Os caras ficam meio
Or any ancient
tonto, né?
text.
It's sort of like the God of the gaps. Once, people used to believe that lightning was God's wrath and throwing these lightning bolts, but once we understood it was a natural process, God shrank a little bit more because now we couldn't attribute those lightning bolts
Probably
to God.
panic.
We had to attribute that to the real science. The other thing, the point about the Bible specifically for me is, why is that one particular text the correct one? You choose to believe that, and that's fine, but there's so many other writings and so many other books, so why weren't they correct? Why is just the Bible correct?
Well, what you'll find in a lot of these ancient religions is they're all flat earth religions.
What?
All the cosmology goes back to being a flat earth with an enclosed system. So it's not just the Bible that teaches this. It's many different religious.
Mano, eu não consigo levar essa vida a sério. Que religião? Todas as religiões é terra plana! Não, não, não é possível isso, mano. Fala pra mim, qual religião que fala terra plana
So
também?
one problem I have is to trying to explain phenomena happening in nature by holy books. Those are religious books. Those are not books of science. And it is wrong to infer or deduct scientific readings out of those books.
My name is Wendell. I am a logical, biblically based, and scientific flat earther. I didn't start out, and no one starts out
Terraplanista científico. Mano, não dá pra misturar essas duas palavras, desculpa. Não, essas duas palavras não tem como misturar, viado.
flat earther, but I had a lot of questions. So I actually got to the point where I had to go out and put my own eyeballs on it. So we went out to an observation at Salton Sea, and things just didn't add up down there. So we've gone back probably a dozen times, and I can guarantee you that there is no curvature over distance.
Ok. É, eu acho que é tudo artista comprado, Midro. Não é possível, cuzão. Não é possível, viado. É, a internet teve um importante papel em confirmar minha visão desse tópico. Ok. Mano, pior que é true, mano. Não que isso seja ruim, mas é o bagulho da fake news, né, viado? É o bagulho da fake news, né, cuzão? A internet é um mar, você precisa aprender a nadar no bagulho, né? Senão você vira esses caras aí.
Today that's outside of channels 2, 4, and 7.
Ó, eu não vou mentir. Quando eu procurei sobre a Terra plana, tá ligado? Eu vi a tese dos caras, porque eu também não gosto de... Tá ligado? Mano, tudo deve ser questionado, eu acho, mano. Tudo, mano. Tudo na vida se deve questionar, não aceitar como verdade só, tá ligado? Ter uma mente aberta sobre o bagulho, mano. Eu nunca vi a Terra... Nunca fui pro espaço ver a Terra global, tá ligado? A Terra globo no bagulho. Então, tá ligado? Nossa, tá começando a ficar estranho essa ideia, né? Mas eu fui ver a brisa dos caras, tá ligado? Mas não faz sentido. Não faz sentido o bagulho. Nenhum, na real, velho.
It's pretty easy to say YouTube isn't research, but when you spend enough time, you're picking up quite a bit. And with the discussion groups, panels, we've gone against opposition. We've opposed ourselves. Surprisingly enough, flat Earth is its own worst enemy. So it's not that easy for us to come to consensus. And we find that consensus is orchestrated and not actually scientific in any way.
You know, my grandfather...
Não, que Sards tá falando isso, sai fora. Para, stop.
Anything you read in the newspaper, right? He told that to me. Now, with the age of the internet, it's like, you know, how much of this misinformation are you getting there? And when you have like eyewitnesses taking video of something, you do have to take everything with a grain of salt. That's why, because of my multimedia background, I knew that all that stuff could be faked. You know, take it into Photoshop, take it into After Effects.
Mas por quê? Mas por quê? Por quê? Por quê? Pra quê que a galera ia criar a brisa do globo, cuzão? Pra que todo esse trampo, tá ligado? Tá ligado? Mentir o planeta inteiro que o bagulho é o globo. Pra que esse trampo, tá ligado, mano?
Okay, this is
É muito trampo, mano.
Of the issue of why there are so many flat earth believers out there right now. The problem is the information from someone who decides to start a website or produce a YouTube video is not reliable. When I have a toothache, I go to a dentist. When my car breaks down, I go to a mechanic. When you have questions about cosmology, you should go to an astrophysicist, you should go to a physicist, you should go to people who have spent years and years studying these ideas. Not some 6-minute YouTube video. There is a percentage of people that if they saw a YouTube video that was not within their scientific chops to refute on the face of it, would believe anything out of it.
Os caras tão bravos, mano. Pior que deve ser foda, né, mano? Ô, você estuda, faz a faculdade lá de ciência no bagulho, 6, 10 anos pra chegar os caras falando que a Terra plana, dá uma pegada, cuzão. Os caras devem estar bravos de verdade, não é possível, mano.
The things I will say is NASA.gov has their own documents out there that we get to vet, which is through the Freedom of Information Act. And would you agree that NASA documents, if they're on display, that we should be able to go and research inside there?
NASA is not proving that the Earth is flat.
Well, they say it in 14 other documents.
You should read what NASA says, and you should listen to what
I
NASA
would
says.
love to see your NASA evidence that the Earth is
It's
flat.
only their contradictory issues
Okay,
that bring us here.
We're all familiar with the Earthrise photo, right? The Earth is rising over the moon. We're all familiar with it. That's NASA. You can go out to NASA's site. You can download the original, right?
I already know what you're going to ask.
So you bring up the luminance on it, and you can see where it's cut out and pasted there.
They're showing us doctored images that are clearly doctored. The blue marble is a very famous image from 1972. When you talk to the artist from NASA, Robert Simmons, he talks about exactly how it was created from data, and it's not a photograph whatsoever. He added clouds.
Let me explain.
He added a highlight of the sun.
If you take, on your phone, most phones have that panoramic image. When you do that, you're taking a series of pictures, and the phone cleverly stitches that together.
I'm just saying how it's presented. It's presented as a real photograph.
So when NASA takes real photos, and they either clean them up for color, or they stitch them together so it's one large image, it doesn't mean they're CGI.
You're talking about composites. I'm what you call a globe denier.
Negador do globo.
You could even get me into a virtual construct if I can't find the...
Cara, pessoa me interessando. Chega um cara aleatório que a NASA fala que a Terra é plana. Não, os caras tá falando que a NASA tá mentindo, tá ligado, mano? É tudo fake. Mano, o bagulho da Lua já dá uma pegada daí. O bagulho da Lua eu não tenho certeza não, tá ligado? Tipo, os caras colou na Lua lá, mano.
Orders myself. What shape would you say you think the Earth is? It appears to me to be a stationary plane. As opposed to the vastness of infinity of space, I would find it to be an ice plane where we have a localized sun and our environment thrives there.
Tá, mano.
You know, these thrives there. A localized...
Isso aqui quebra totalmente a brisa, mano. Como é que tem um sol aqui? E se a Terra é plana e o sol tá aqui, se a Terra é plana e o Sol tá aqui, a gente devia ver o Sol inteiro, né? Tipo, daqui dá pra ver o Sol. Então tem uma barreira mágica, uma magia que impede a luz de chegar. Essa é a brisa. Isso não tem explicação. Isso não tem. Desculpa, mano. Eu quero saber a explicação disso, tá ligado? Isso que quebra o bagulho.
On television. This is a brilliant opportunity to speak. We've been suppressed, censored by mainstream media. Alternative media is just a thing of beauty for me.
I view the other side.
Imagina os caras da NASA, mano. Há 200 anos atrás, mano. Os caras lançam o bagulho pro espaço, vê que a Terra é plana. Esse cara, não. Vamos fazer uma edição, vamos fazer todo mundo acreditar que essa porra é um globo, tio. E que se foda, tá ligado? O bagulho é um globo e vamos mentir pra geral. Porque sim, velho. Porque sim que nós é troll do bagulho. Nossa, não dá. Peraí, o que eles perguntaram? Mano, peraí, tem 30 minutos de vídeo? Holy. Eu vejo o outro lado como não educado. Nossa, viado. Os caras chamou os caras de não educados. Os caras que fez faculdade de ciência. Não é possível, né? Esse bagulho virou meme já.
They certainly think they're educated.
And they're following quite a bit of the university system, what we call scientism,
Right, scientism.
obviously is the belief in what's written, where we tend to be exploring in the field with physical
Cientismo.
properties, not theories of any kind. We're using actual measurements that are calculated not by our guidelines,
Nossa,
but the guidelines of
mano, o
science
que
as
que
we
você
know
tá
it.
falando, meu irmão? Meu irmão? Bro, what the fuck?
Well, that's the other thing too.
Os caras falaram que os cientistas não testam nada, é só teoria?
Well, that's
Ah,
the
mano,
other
não
thing,
dá.
too.
O quê?
We know that at least on a large scale, the government has been disingenuous.
Irmãozinho,
They're pushing a
segura a
narrative,
brisa.
right? So it's hard for us. I mean, I'm sure that you've met people too. It's like, look, are you haven't looked into it yet, or are you a shill? Are you part of a disinformation campaign?
I don't think you guys are uneducated. I think you're wrongly educated.
I think the problem with what I've seen in the flat earth crowd is that it's not that they're undereducated, but they, instead of looking at evidence and letting the evidence guide to where the ultimate conclusion is, they start with a conclusion and then they try to cherry pick evidence to support their pre-drawn conclusion. They cast away all the bits of evidence that actually is contrary to their belief system.
I think that you're very well educated as well as you are, Jim.
Certainly Ali is. He's probably got the best education of all of us.
Exactly, and he paid for it too.
Nossa,
but more and
farpou.
more professionals are coming on board. They're starting to question their reality. So
O cara
the thing of it
pagou pela
is
educação
once
dele.
you
Não
start
dá
to
pra confiar.
really take a hard look at the evidence, and you are unafraid of just standing for the truth, wherever that may lead you. Then,
Mano, esse vídeo tava me deixando.
people end up
Tá
becoming flat
dando
earthers.
cérebro derretido, viado. Tá papo de derretendo.
I'm hoping to be able to tell our side of the story from the inside out. So many times, flat earthers are depicted from the outside in, and I want to be able to share with others empirical data that proves the earth is not what we
Eles vão mostrar os dados! Pera aí, eles não vão mostrar os dados? Eu quero ver os dados! Eu quero ver os dados! Mostra os dados, por favor, mano. Eu mudei a minha cabeça sobre esse... Eu mudei a minha visão em algum momento sobre esse ponto, sobre esse tópico.
So when I was 12 years old, I went to space camp, and I met Alan B. Shepard.
Oh, nice.
Yep, and I wanted to be an astronaut.
Não,
Alan B.
não,
Shepard
não.
walked the moon.
Oh.
So, for me, I'm a glober. I went
É um
into
glober.
it completely
É os
wanting
globistas, né, mano?
And my husband told me, you know, he saw this thing about the fake moon landing. And I was like, you're absolutely crazy. There's no way that the moon landings are fake. And then in 2010, my husband was killed. And so I never really developed that until around 2014 when Flat Earth kind of came back up. And that little voice inside my head said, remember the fake moon landings? Remember when that was brought to my attention? And then I started really critically analyzing that. And I would say, you know, just looking at that evidence, if they can lie about the moon landings, they can certainly lie about pictures and satellites and other things. And so I started going down that rabbit hole of studying. So that was my influence from my
How many
husband.
lies does it take to make a liar, right?
Meu Deus do céu, mano. Essa conversa desses três é o QI negativo, viado.
I wouldn't say that I've changed my mind because my mind isn't set. NASA is solely designed to change my mind. It is, from its inception, from its discovery, has been a television program. It's been a space program to sell us on something that they've yet to actually show us.
Eu não consigo mais reagir. Não dá mais pra reagir a isso, velho. Não tem mais o que reagir, na real.
Spinning with clouds and a moon. Show me home. And I think I could shut up easily. I think I could shut up.
Por favor.
The
O que ele falou?
Easily. I think I could shut up.
Please. Please. Shut the fuck
timing
up.
of your conversions is interesting to me. 20 years ago, the flat Earth world was.
Então, eu não tô entendendo também, Midro. O que os caras ganham mentindo que a Terra é um globo?
Internet, YouTube, online discussion groups, all these new available places where you could find information about everything.
This is true that the evidence as you looked were not robust evidence. And the sources you used, they were not reliable sources again. But my problem is that, and I like you guys that you are very skeptical, but at the same time, you are not skeptical about your belief system.
You
That
keep
should
going
have come
back.
first.
You think that that's my foundation for why I believe the Earth is flat, and I'm telling you, you're wrong.
Okay.
I have evidence that proves it's flat.
What type
or
of
proves
evidence
It's not
you
a wall.
What type of
Curvature, I
evidence?
just-
Being
Meu Deus do céu, vai ser treta.
deliberately misled by mainstream
Now,
media.
what's your evidence? You're
We see
thinking?
too far. We see too far. We should not be able to see. I live in Dana Point.
Okay,
I can see San Clemente Island, which is 60 miles away.
so what?
What do you mean, so what?
Oh, I'm on the
Pera aí, essa é... Peraí, calma. Eu posso ver a ilha Sacramente, fica a 100 km de distância. Nós vemos muito longe. E daí?
way.
Agora dá uma pegada. Peraí, calma, dá uma pegada.
Oh, I'm on the
1,100
beach. I'm
feet
on the
tall.
beach.
It is
What do you mean by
tall.
so what?
I'm on the
But-
beach.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Can you see a ship which is going?
We're
Oh
not
yeah,
talking
let's talk
that.
about the ship that goes
Yes,
over the curvature of
okay.
the Earth. I love
So-
that. So science has said that when I see a ship go out of my field of view, it's going over the curvature of the Earth, correct?
Yes.
But then I bring my P900 up, and guess what? I can zoom it back in.
Ah, ela pega a câmera! Nossa, por que aconteceu com a legenda? Eu pego a minha P900 e eu posso ampliar a foto.
P900 up, and guess what? I can zoom it back in. So is it going over the curvature of the Earth or not?
Absolutely.
Oh, not all the
No, you
time?
can't.
Not all the time?
What the fuck is this?
Hidden by the
At that
curvature.
distance, you shouldn't see the top
At
of it
all.
either.
If the Earth were truly flat, there would be really
Mano, os caras não percebem que a Terra, tipo, ela é muito grande, viado. Pô, ela é um bagulho, tipo, muito grande, tá ligado? Que, tipo, mesmo a 100 km ainda dá pra ver os bagulho.
hardly any limit. You would be able to stand at the top of the Empire State Building and look towards Chicago, a mere 1,000 miles away, and see the lights of Chicago at night.
No,
Why
no,
wouldn't
because
you?
you have an atmospheric disturbance.
Very thick.
I've been
water
into
alone.
astronomy. I've
Peraí, peraí.
State Building and look hardly any limit. You would be
Se a
able
Terra
to
fosse plana, não teria limite.
stand at the top of the Empire State Building
Eu seria capaz de ficar no topo
look towards
e olhar pra
Chicago, a
Chicago.
mere 1,000 miles away, and see the lights of Chicago at night.
No,
Why
no,
wouldn't
because
you?
you have an atmospheric.
Tem um distúrbio atmosférico! É por isso que não consegue ver tão longe, mano. Tem um distúrbio atmosférico de...
Very thick.
É muito grosso o distúrbio atmosférico. Não, é por isso... A Terra é plana. A Terra é plana. Mas a gente não consegue ver o Japão daqui porque tem o distúrbio atmosférico.
I've been into astronomy since I was 10.
It's faulty logic. It's completely faulty logic.
What? Vamos resetar, né? Não, sim. Tópico mais interessante.
One of the big things I do is investigate extraordinary claims like flat eartherism or ESP or all sorts of different things. The Earth is undoubtedly a globe and not flat. This is well supported by gobs of science.
Scientific consensus is possible.
Consenso científico é possível.
What is the question?
I don't understand the question.
Eu também não entendi.
This is possible.
Ó, traduzir certinho, hein,
Anything is
cuzão?
possible. I mean, anything is possible. I've got a tremendous issue with consensus and peer review. I've been spending a lot of
Eu não
time
entendi a pergunta
arguing
também.
the
O
other,
quê?
with people that argue the other side. And I found that surprisingly, consensus always wins. It was shocking to me that the group with the majority has an
Salve,
incredible...
Berzão. Boa noite, mano.
As scientists, flat earthers,
Eles acabaram de falar, claro que tem evidência com o Alan. Porra, o distúrbio atmosférico, mano, é a explicação do bagulho. É por isso que nós não vê o Sol também, mano. Quando o Sol, ele tá girando na Terra plana e ele começa a ficar muito longe, o distúrbio atmosférico barra a luz do Sol. É por isso que nós não vê o bagulho, tio.
We're at an incredible disadvantage.
Let's talk about scientific consensus for a second.
Agora,
You're never
mano,
gonna
qual
get-
que é o sentido? Não faz sentido, viado. Mano. Eu me perdi. Porque se a Terra é plana, como é que o Sol ele desce no horizonte, viado? Tipo, como é que ele vai descendo no horizonte? O Sol tá aqui, ó. Ele vai descendo e ele desaparece no horizonte, tá ligado? Se a Terra é plana... Where? Se a Terra é plana, o Sol estiver rodando em cima de nós, não era pro o Sol sumir enquanto ele estivesse alto, tá ligado? Ele ia sumindo assim. É o distúrbio atmosférico, é verdade. O distúrbio atmosférico, where?
100% of anyone. There is
Tá tudo
scientific
explicado no distúrbio
consensus
atmosférico,
on
mano.
global Earth, there's scientific consensus on evolution, a lot of big
They
issues.
use the word theory.
Do you know what a theory in science is an extremely...
And a fact
Let
is
me-
a fact.
Don't mistake this word theory.
You are.
In
not me.
science, it's not conjecture.
Teoria científica é um coerente grupo de proposições formuladas para explicar um grupo de fatos ou fenômenos no mundo natural e repetitivamente confirmados através de experimento e observação. Tá aí. O que tá acontecendo aqui é terraplanista contra os globistas, mano. É isso, mano. Os caras pegou 3 cientistas e colocou pra trocar ideia com 3 terraplanistas, mano. Esse aqui cara é terraplanista. Os outros 3 são cientistas que estão sentados com ele agora.
Is by definition, it's an explanation.
It's a deep...
Well, let's talk
So this
about a
is
fact.
something
Show me a
people
fact
made a
then.
mistake.
Why
They
aren't
think
all
theory
facts
is-
theories?
In science, the word theory is the highest level that you can give something because it's so well supported.
What about a fact?
That is a fact. It's
Not a fact you would call it a
You know why?
fact.
Do you know why? Because in science, there's always room for improvement. There's always room to find to tweak and find better information.
So that is how science works.
It gets better refined over time, as opposed to flat earth theory, which never gets refined. It simply is what it is.
Você jogou na cara.
Have limited access to media
Agora deitou,
and
mano.
limited exposure. Until we're in university curriculums, we will continue to appear uneducated.
Well, that's not true. In the history of science, we had many occasions that the idea it was not welcomed by the society. Einstein was one of them. Galileo was one of them. But if
O
your
Galileu,
theory
né,
is
que descobriu o formato da Terra. O Galileu foi posto em trial. O que é trial mesmo? Qual que é a tradução? O Galileu foi posto num tribunal, né? É um tribunal, é tipo, sei lá, por afirmar a crença que a Terra gira em torno do Sol. Ah, é, mano, porque a gente achava que a Terra era o centro do bagulho, né?
authentic one, and it can go through this hardship of scientific method, eventually.
Faz sentido, né, a galera pensar isso, né? Que a gente tava na Terra e viu os bagulhos girando em volta de nós e achar que o bagulho é o centro, né? A legenda.
But if your theory is an authentic one, and it can go through this hardship of scientific method, eventually will win.
I used to believe that science was after the truth, right? We all just want to know what the truth is. Science has been trying so hard to divorce itself from the idea of a creator when God's intent was to create science to lead you to Him. You know, sometimes things seem supernatural that we are able to explain later through, science. Okay, I understand. But there are other things as well that are supernatural, that go beyond the natural, that we can only explain through believing in a creator, right?
This is my big issue with science, scientific approach and non-scientific approach. You are absolutely right. In science, we are after the truth. And we are hoping by each day we're getting closer and closer to the truth. We never get there. Never.
Well, I know that's true for you. And
No, that's a science. That's you guys. You think you do have the truth. Now let's look at the evidences. As you were mentioning, you do have the conclusion. Let's find the evidences. Science doesn't work that way.
That's not true. That is not
Well,
true.
you are saying
No.
you are referring to Jesus, who many billions
O cara chutou, viado. O cara chutou, ele não aguenta mais. Ele não aguenta mais, cuzão.
including myself.
And many more billions do.
So what?
So who's right?
Of course I can.
So
When you say that we start with a conclusion and then try to match everything to make it work, like that to me is complete dishonesty. That is not true at all.
That is what you are doing
No,
right
you're
now.
not. You're making that assumption,
No,
which
it's
I
not
think
my
science does a
assumption.
lot of.
Well,
So do you make assumptions or not? Does
I
science make
don't know.
assumptions? Does science
No,
make
but-
assumptions?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
We do make assumptions
But-
based on things that are well supported and proven and reproven.
Mano, a conversa não chega em lugar nenhum, viado. Parece discussão de bar, cuzão. Não chega em ponto nenhum, tá ligado? Os caras só ficam discutindo, cuzão. Acho que tem algum ser superior que adora uma coisa para as pessoas não entrarem em colapso. Fala tu, Savernes. Sim, mano.
How you isolate gravity. If
Tipo, eu acho, mano, que a religião em si é um bagulho pra nós explicar a morte, mano. Eu acho que é o bagulho mais importante, assim, da religião, se pá, mano. Porque, mano, quando a gente... Tipo, morte é o nosso bagulho que nós tem certeza que vai acontecer um dia e que mais nós fica em choque, tá ligado, mano? O nosso instinto é sobreviver, tá ligado? Né? Não, tipo, qualquer coisa que chega perto de se machucar ou morrer, a gente afasta, tá ligado? Aí quando você pensa que você vai morrer e o que vem depois disso, você entra na crise existencial, né, cuzão? Eu lembro que bateu, quando eu era pequeno, já... Todo mundo já ter passado por isso, né? Não sei. A crise existencial, que você vai morrer e o que vai acontecer, né, cuzão? Papo de chorar no banheiro quando eu era pequeno, você é louco. E daí eu acho que a religião, ela dá uma aliviada nisso, tá ligado? Não que eu seja ateu, tá ligado? Eu acredito em alguma coisa também, não é católico, né? É meio que uma mistura de várias religiões, o que eu acredito, tá ligado? Mas daí, quando você pensa na morte, você é acreditador de uma religião, ela fica muito mais suave, tá ligado? Tipo, a grande brisa da igreja, o católico, pai, você ser bom pra você ir pro céu e não ir pro inferno, tá ligado? E dar dinheiro pra igreja.
We don't have to.
Enfim, voltando ao bagulho.
If gravity
We
is
don't
an
have to-
assumption, you show me in the scientific method how you isolate gravity.
We've done that actually. Yeah, sure.
Vamos relaxar e resetar. Tava ficando pego. Tava dando uma pegada, os caras saindo no soco. Qual que é o tema? É, Arrhenius, é os terraplanistas contra 3 cientistas, mano. Como vocês estão se sentindo? Como a discussão está indo?
I kind of feel like I want to develop some of this stuff a little bit more. It feels high level, but I feel like there's so much that I haven't really even touched base on.
Nossa, tem muita coisa ainda. Os fatos não chegaram, mano. Não é só a porra do distúrbio astronômico.
Well, there's still time.
There's still time. I have hope for you, Wendell, and Shelley. I don't know about Dan. I have hope for you too. But, you know, it's certainly, I'm glad it's a civil discussion, certainly.
Oh, yeah.
Quase civil, né?
Hey, what was that? Good. He flipped! Wendell, welcome aboard.
Welcome.
The greatest moment in television history right there.
O cara se converteu, ok. A NASA é confiável. Eu não acho, não sei se a NASA é totalmente confiável. Eu acho que tem sempre que questionar, tá ligado? Mas lógico que não falando. Ah, não vem com o bagulho que eu sou terraplanista, pô. Mas eu não confio em tudo. Essa que é a brisa, mano. Tá ligado? É confiável até que ponto, mano? Eles podem do nada querer meter o louco, tá ligado? No bagulho.
So, I mean, obviously, any organization can be wrong with
Para,
certain
Stomp.
things, and they may have individuals that lie or deceive or something. But as a general organization, they're
Ah,
looking for the
escutei
truth.
Yeah, the idea that NASA and the government is lying to us about the shape of the Earth is the height of conspiracy theories. In order for this to be true, the literally hundreds of thousands of people who at some point over the last 50 or 60 years would had to be somewhat complicit in this, and nobody spills the beans at all, is on the face of it completely unbelievable.
Cara, sacou do
The
feijão?
private does not know what the general is doing. There's compartmentalization happening all the time.
Of course.
So it wouldn't be that far-fetched. Has the government ever lied to us is really the question at stake.
We all agree on that.
Yeah, but now
Common ground.
now we have NASA.gov, right? And absolutely, they're not lying about anything. They're completely transparent. Everything is true. We'd be foolish to
There's
think
a
that's
difference
true.
here. I'm sorry, this is a fallacy here. There is
Not
a
a fallacy.
I'm sure it is.
Go
See,
ahead.
you were talking about a government. Now you're talking about an agency of the
NASA.gov.
government. But this agency is scrutinized
NASA.gov.
by thousands and thousands of scientists around the globe. You are dealing with smart people, believe me.
Pessoas
I
inteligentes.
don't deny that.
So it is very hard to do that. Once or twice, maybe. Not for the all time.
Raise your hand if you think we went to the moon.
What is the proof? Hundreds and hundreds of pounds of moon rocks and dust. And we have distributed those freely to PhD scientists around the world. And not one of those geologists have said, what is this?
Been proven to be fake.
And also and collected on the ice in Antarctica and in the Arctic as well. Those are
O
collected
quê?
and collected.
Coletados no gelo da Antártica e no Ártico. As partes da Lua, mano. Que caíram aqui. Ahá! Descobrimos, mano. Os caras não foram pra Lua.
On the ice in Antarctica and in the Arctic as well. Those are collected. You don't have to go to the moon to get moon rocks. As a matter of fact, all U.S. Air Force photography prior to 1958 shows a flat Earth. Only NASA shows a sphere.
That's absolutely not true.
Jim.
Pera, o que ele falou?
All U.S.
Toda fotografia da Força Aérea dos Estados Unidos antes de 1958 mostra a Terra plana.
Prior to 1958 shows a flat Earth. Only NASA shows a
That's not
sphere.
true.
That's
absolutely not true.
Jim. I wouldn't lie to you.
And the other
NASA's lying to you, my friend.
Nossa, agora derreteu o cérebro.
Laser retroreflector on the moon.
That we're using now.
We still use to this day.
It's sitting there.
You can find to the inch how far away the moon
No
is.
pictures of home.
That only is there. By the
No,
way,
there are not.
My question to you is, why? Why would all these
É a pergunta que eu tava fazendo.
perpetuate this massive
Por
fraud?
quê? Por quê? O começo do diálogo agora parece no começo clássico. Onde tirou essa fotografia? Então eu vou pesquisar depois.
What's the benefit of doing
Okay, the benefit of it. They make $52 million a day. Follow the money.
No, the little
Follow
guy.
the money.
The little guy.
That's what, then when you say all.
Peraí, os caras ganham dinheiro com a Terra. Com a Terra. É por isso eles fazem pela grana, mano. Peraí, isso não faz sentido nenhum, viado. O que que eu tô assistindo, mano? Meu QI tá baixando, eu tô sentindo, velho. O meu QI diminuindo, cuzão. Não dá mais, velho. Peraí, os cara foram pro espaço. Daí viu a Terra plana. Daí, em vez dos caras falar que a Terra é plana, os caras falaram que a Terra é um globo pra ganhar dinheiro. What? Isso não faz menor sentido! Yo! Yo! Vai se tratar, mano!
the benefit of doing
Okay, the benefit of it. They make $52 million a day. Follow the money.
No, the little
Follow
guy.
the money.
The little guy.
That's what, then when you say all, okay?
But it didn't start out that way. And NASA was not founded to prove the Earth was a globe. It had nothing to do with the way they were founded.
Well, if you go and study
Are
the
you
whole-
sure?
Yeah, positive.
Really?
Yes. Somebody has to be a voice for reason, and somebody has to be a voice for truth. It would be a
Não, a NASA é
fantasy
paga,
to
com
change
certeza.
his mind from
Mas não faz
the
sentido.
tree.
Tipo, se ela visse a Terra
However,
plana,
if
por que ela
somebody's
mentir que a
sitting on the
Terra
fence, and this is the first introduction
não é
to this
plana?
debate, perhaps they'll hear the reasonable voice and say, that makes more
Pera
sense
aí.
than having this.
Talvez a NASA foi lá, viu que a Terra é plana e viu que na real a gente tá envolto. Porque essa que é a brisa da Terra plana, né? Tipo, só tem a Terra e a gente tem um bagulho preto cheio de pontinho em volta, mano. E daí não tinha mais o que explorar. A NASA chegou, saiu lá e viu que não tinha mais o que explorar, mano. Eles não iam ganhar mais dinheiro, tio. Já exploraram tudo do universo. Daí os caras teve que inventar coisa pra explorar, mano. É isso, cuzão. Os caras teve que inventar coisa pra explorar. Eles falaram que o bagulho é redondo, gira lá e tem milhões de galáxias e a gente tem que ficar lançando satélite e tirando foto pra descobrir mais.
Pizza
É isso. Infelizmente é isso, mano. Eu posso me colocar no lugar do outro. Meu Deus, o cientista.
I used to be
Ele tá virando terraplanista.
all earther. Everything you say
Ah,
right
tô segurando
now
até agora
is
que eu entendi.
completely what I used to agree to. So I completely understand where you're coming from.
For me, I think the correct way to do any kind of investigation or to examine things is by literally putting yourself in that mindset of the other person. So I do that. I disagree with your position, but I completely understand from your perspective what you're saying.
E discussão.
The trouble I have understanding your perspective is, in the modern world, unless you live in a cave somewhere, you have to believe in science implicitly. I met a flat earther, a young woman who said, I don't trust anything that science does. And that's a problem because human beings can't replicate the whole body of science every single generation. At some point, you have to trust what's already been discovered and proven and move on to the next thing. Otherwise, we're not going to advance at all. I mean, when you turn that key ignition in your car, you expect the car to start out.
And not blow up.
And not blow up, because science puts you in that position. So it's really hard to understand how people...
Eu confio que nessa os caras vão mudar de opinião, velho.
Science achieves wonderful things and then just jumping ship when it comes to this other issue.
We're not drawing conclusions. We understand the mechanisms that made that car work. There is no theories and no disputed conclusions involved there. It's not a good analogy. Can I admit a great compromise that we have to experience being against the grain people is we have to literally sit in a group and decide whether or not we can afford to have an opinion, and that's tough.
I agree with you there, because we're the same thing. I mean, I think skeptics go through this and atheists go through this. I don't believe in God. When I'm around religious people, I take a chance socially when I tell them I'm an atheist. So I know it takes some courage to follow your beliefs, and I appreciate that. But I think I've done a lot of research in that venue too. And it's not something I choose to believe in. It's something I have to believe in based on the evidence.
See, what I get from you guys is that seeing is believing. So how come you believe in God or Jesus?
Cadê a pós-lançadinha? Você curte, né, Cassinão?
Right?
I've seen evidence, though.
Well, exactly. So we are looking for evidence. There are many other evidences for Earth not being flat. My point is that these experiments clearly show that the Earth is globe. And you don't need to go outside the globe to see it's globe.
It's a theoretical...
You told me you want the evidence. If you're saying that you look only to see something, then I dispute your belief system in God and Jesus or Jehovah or Buddha or Zarathustra or anyone.
Caralho, o cara citou todo mundo.
Because it's coming from there.
No,
You think you do
no.
have
I have evidence.
You
from
quoted
what I
at the
know.
beginning
She
of
pointed out
this.
physics.
You quoted Bible.
Of
That's
course
the
I did, but
reason.
that is not the only reason I know what the shape of the Earth is, and you keep, that's fallacy.
It's not fallacy.
It is a
Actually,
fallacy.
it is not fallacy.
It is a fallacy.
Tempo.
I'm a theoretical physicist. What I'm doing is the combination of
Menos
string
10 QI
theory
já.
and cosmology. So we try to
Não,
understand
fácil.
what happened during the Big Bang, after the Big Bang, or even before the Big Bang.
What are you hoping to get from the discussion today?
Nada.
Well, I hope
O que é? Ele perguntou, o que você está esperando conseguir da discussão de hoje?
Well, I hope I would be
Triangular é
able to
nova, hein,
convert the
Arrhenius?
generation to
Dá pra
convince them
testar?
that first, they should think critically and don't believe anything. They shouldn't take anything for granted. Look at the evidences and examine those
As evidências.
and throw away those claims that are not evidence-based.
Eles têm um modelo da Terra plana ali.
Not to put it down, but when you're talking about rocket science, this is very difficult for the majority of people
Eu acho que até
to
um cubo,
understand.
cuzão.
It's designed that way.
Minecraft, viado.
And so, in a lot of ways, hiding behind rocket science is similar to religion. If you look at the Catholic Church back in the days, only we can interpret the Bible. You have to listen to what we say.
A Terra é plana. E se a gente cavar, a gente cai da Terra? Se a gente fazer um buraco muito grande? Ou tem tipo bedrock, né, cuzão? Bedrock que não dá pra quebrar daí. Rosquinha.
So in a lot of ways, we're getting that
Rosquinha
same
é foda.
notion from science that says, only we can interpret what these numbers are. You just need to trust us. But then when we actually do go and test some of their equations and they don't work, does that beg the question for us to go and test it ourselves? Absolutely.
Eu não tô entendendo mais nada que você me tá falando, velho.
The thing about science is its predictability. Let's for some moment, for a short moment, assume that your model, this flat Earth model, is correct. I don't know, what does it buy for us? What does it predict for us? So my question for you guys would be, next time, bring me something from your theory, your model, that you can predict something which the globe Earth model cannot predict. Then I would change my mind.
I would just say that don't
Os caras não entenderam o humano.
I've said. You got to do your own research. And I think what you'll find is that you'll see that a puzzle piece doesn't fit. And the only way you're going to do that is if you put your own eyeballs on it.
I don't blame people for being skeptical. I'm skeptical about a lot of different things. I applaud that instinct in you. But you have to go beyond just not believing in something. Ask the hard questions. Ask what qualifies a YouTuber, a book author, anywhere else you're getting this information. What qualifies them to make wide-ranging comments about the shape of the Earth?
Mano, é o marido plantou a sementinha, cuzão.
Or some major theory is going to be eventually written in the halls of science for the rest of their lives. But they have to come up with the goods. They have to show good science-based evidence that what they say is true, and they have to withstand the test of time and peer review and the rigors of the scientific method.
All right. Thank you.
No resumo, qual que é o resumo? Resumo não é nada, né? É só um vídeo pra perder QI e já era.
Thank you guys for watching this episode of Middle.
Ok, isso foi legal. Caralho! Tem até, mano, o YouTube até colocou, cuzão. O YouTube colocou pique quando é o bagulho de Covid, tá ligado? Aqui, contexto, mano. Ele coloca aqui, ó, por favor, dá uma lida nisso aqui, tá ligado? O modelo tava falando a construção arcaica do formato da Terra com um plano disco. Muitas culturas antigas concordavam sobre a cosmologia do plano da Terra, incluindo a Grécia Antiga, a civilização da Idade Bronze e a da Idade do Ferro do Oriente Médio, na Índia e na China até o século XVII. Bom o YouTube tá colocando isso, mano. Ajuda, né? Ô, Vsauce também é bom, mano.
Michael here. In 2000...
Caralho, esse canal é mó bom.
2003, researchers did the measurements and found that Kansas is, in fact, literally flatter than a pancake. Of course, the Earth is not flat, the Earth is round. Otherwise, travelers would be falling off the edge all the time. Right? Wrong. If the Earth was not a ball shape, but was instead a flat disk, like this plate, well, with the right density and thickness, living in the middle could feel pretty normal. But as you moved toward the edge, gravity on a disk Earth would slightly skew, pushing at a greater and greater angle back toward the center. My friend Nick from Yeti Dynamics put together this great simulation. The person and buildings obviously aren't to scale, but check out how such increasingly diagonal gravity would work. Although this is a flat disk, it would feel to a runner headed toward the edge like they were fighting to climb up a steeper and steeper hill. The building foundations behind the runner reflect how you would have to build structures closer and closer to the edge so that people living in them always felt like down was at right angles to the floor.
Nossa, agora quebrou. O que, mano? Não entendi por que isso, mano.
Now, as you approach the edge, things would get scary. Remember, this is a flat Earth, but it would feel like a sheer drop-off. What's really cool is that contrary to the don't fall off the edge fear, on a flat world, because of gravity, the scary risk would actually be falling away from the edge and rolling all the way back to the center. Once you stepped over the edge, instead of falling off into space, you'd be able to relax. It would be a nice, level place. This model, of course, neglects the fact that such a planet shape would be impossible.
Ah! Não, eu não entendi na real, mano. Seria que a gravidade só puxa igual no centro? E a gravidade da borda é diferente? É isso a brisa?
Anything as massive as the Earth, shaped like a flat disk, would, under its own gravity, naturally collapse back into a ball. This is why in outer space, everything more than a few hundred miles in diameter is round.
Tipo cone.
Or so we've been told. What if gravity isn't real?
Exatamente, mano. A gente tá usando as bases da cientista, gravidade, mano. Não dá pra usar isso como base, não dá pra usar mais nada como base, mano. Tem que criar nossa própria teoria agora.
What if the Earth is in fact flat and science has been wrong all along? It's a misconception that Christopher Columbus discovered that the Earth is round. Virtually every scholar and major religion in the West accepted Earth's rotundity since at least the time of the ancient Greeks, who, for instance, had noticed that boats disappear bottom first when sailing away, and as you walk north and south, stars pop into and out of view. The misconception that only a few hundred years ago lots and lots of people believed the Earth was flat likely began in the modern era as a sort of insult, well, your people recently thought the Earth was flat, so why should we believe you now? The smear was repeated and published so often it became accepted as historical fact. Flat earther became synonymous with anti-science. It might seem flat over short distances, but over longer ones, well, the Earth is pretty darn curvy. The Verrazano Narrows Bridge connecting Staten Island and Brooklyn had to be designed with Earth's roundness in mind. Its two towers, separated by 1,300 meters and perfectly vertical, are nonetheless 41 millimeters further apart at the top than at the bottom because of Earth's curvature. In the 3rd century BC,
Peraí, quantos milímetros?
Millimeters further apart at the vertical.
Caralho, 41 milímetros. 41 milímetros.
Are nonetheless 41 millimeters further apart at the top than at the bottom because of Earth's curvature.
Agora os caras vão ter que ir lá medir o bagulho.
Eratosthenes measured
Quem que mediu esse bagulho?
shadows cast by poles in Syene and Alexandria to calculate, more than 2,000 years before rockets and space travel, the circumference of the entire globular Earth, with, for the time, impressive accuracy. Word got around that the Earth was a round shape after that. But in 1906, Wilbur...
Peraí, baixou? Flight Simulator baixou! Caralho, o jogo de globista, mano. O jogo de globista baixou, mano. Eu não vou jogar esse jogo de globista do caralho. Ficar voando em volta de um globo. Essa mentira da porra, tio.